And later on, we will see that even the Yamadutas address them as Siddhaloka Vasis. Now, Brahmaloka is also known as Siddhaloka. Sometimes the planets that are just below Brahmaloka for the mystic yogas, they're also known as Siddhaloka. But in this context, Siddha is referring to the eternally liberated souls, residents of the spiritual world. So with gratitude, Ajamel is now remembering the four Vishnu Dutas. So Prabhupada says that as we have learned from the description in the fifth canto, the hellish planets are situated in the lower portions of the universe. Therefore, they are known as Adobhuva. Ajamel could understand that the Yamadutas had come from that region. Verse 32. अथापि मे दुर्भागस्य विबुधोतं मदर्शने भवित्यं मंगलेन येनात्मा मे प्रसीदति. I am certainly most abominable and unfortunate to have merged in an ocean of sinful activities. But nevertheless, because of my previous spiritual activities, I could see those four exalted personalities who came to rescue me. Now I feel exceedingly happy because of their visit. And so we see this is a mixture. We see the awareness, where Ajamel is increasingly aware of his fallen situation, and also a lot of gratitude. Right? So Ajamel is thinking that he must have done some auspicious acts as a cause for him being able to see the Vishnu Dutas, the best of the devotees. Now, one must assume the mercy of some devotees, because without that, the seed of bhakti cannot be sown. And so Ajamel is recognizing the mercy that he is receiving now, but he is also recognizing the fact that he must have done something to become qualified to receive that mercy. So that the chain of events that Ajamel is reflecting on is described as that in his life before he became sinful, Ajamel had some agyat sukriti. He doesn't know, right? He said, I must have performed something. So either he got some Vaishnav Sangha, some Vaishnav Seva, so something he must have done. Because of that, the Lord inspired him to name his son Narayan. Right? So one may say that why would sinful Ajamel name his son Narayan? In current day times, you very rarely see people naming the children after the name of even demigods, let alone the Lord. The names are uh, generally means something else, like some quality, or sometimes they're just good sounding. Because that Sukriti is missing. So Ajmel, because of some Sukriti, he was inspired to name his son Narayan. Then by chanting his son's name, his sins were burnt away and bhakti took root in his heart. Because of this creeper of bhakti in his heart, he now became qualified to receive the mercy of the devotees in terms of their association. So he became qualified to associate with the Vishnudutas. Because of the association with the devotees, he got protection from material miseries and from the Yamadutas. So now Ajmal is in a situation where he is protected from material downfall and he has an opportunity to make spiritual advancement. So that is why this is known as Ajmal's second chance. So Ajmal did not get liberated at that time, but he got the opportunity to execute devotional service, which he took. And then the chain culminates in Ajmal going back to Godhead. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives several quotes about the importance of Vaishnav Sangha. He quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kai, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. And one might say that Ajmal, he just had a momentary association with the Vishnu Dutas, whereas he had a whole lifetime of association with sins. The Prabhupada says that Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, that just a moment is enough. Then Prabhupada talks about the importance of Guru and Krishna. He quotes Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. By the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one receives the seed of the Bhakti. And he also comments upon how Krishna as Paramatma. He quotes Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya Nidhisana Vishtu Mataspitri Jnanam Purnam. That from within Krishna as Paramatma is remembrance, knowledge, and bhakti. So if we do not take our bhakti practices seriously, we are, and this is us now talking to ourselves, we are putting to waste the efforts of so many devotees. So for each one of us coming into Krishna consciousness, there is literally gallons of blood that devotees have put in. There is our the devotee who introduces us to Krishna consciousness, who cultivates us. There is our Shiksha Gurus, there is our Diksha Gurus, there is Srila Prabhupada, there is the Parampara. So many exalted personalities have devoted their lives for creating this situation. And so that is the parallel with Ajmal. In case of Ajmal, the four Vishnu Dutas had created the situation for him to take advantage of, and he did. And we are in an even more fortunate situation that so many exalted devotees, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, have created the situation for us to take to Krishna consciousness. And if we don't, we are putting to waste their effort. So if Ajmal had survived and then he went back to his sinful ways, then the effort of the Vishnu Dutas would have been to waste. So Prabhupada talks about a practical aspect about names. Then he says that how in ISKCON, when somebody is initiated, the devotee's name is generally something in relationship to Krishna. It is Vishnu Das or it's Gauranga Das, so some name that is connected to Krishna. And then as we associate more with devotees, we call their names over and over again, then we are also making spiritual advancements. So Prabhupada says the Krishna consciousness movement is so meticulous that it gives one an opportunity to remember Krishna Samavarad. Okay, verse 33. Anyatha miryamanasya noashe vrishalipate vaikunthanam grahanam jihiva vaktum iharate. Were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten an opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati, when I was just ready to die. Certainly, it could not have been possible. So from gratitude, Ajamel is now moving to appreciation. In the 32nd verse, Ajamel had reflected that how he was able to see the Vishnu Dutas despite his sinful life. And this mood is continued in this verse. Essentially, the same sentiment is repeated for emphasis and wonderment, to create wonderment in us, that uh, even the most unclean keeper of a prostitute, by some devotional service, becomes qualified to see the pure devotees. So Ajamel is saying that how could I have Vaikuntanam Grahanam at the time of death? Right? So he's going down the chain. But because he chanted the name, the Vishnu Dutas came. So earlier on, he was saying, how could I get the association of the Vishnu Dutas? Now he's saying that, how could I chant the name of the Lord, given that I was an Asucha Vrishali Pate. So unclean husband of a Vrishali. So contextually here, Vrishali is translated to prostitute, means many things. It means an unchaste woman, a promiscuous woman, a woman of a Shudra caste. It also refers to an unmarried woman, a barren woman, a mother whose children have died. So different meanings, but here contextually, Vrishali is translated as prostitute by the acharyas. Also, I think one of you had asked me about the meaning of Ajamel, and I'd done some research on it. Not sure if I shared it earlier on, but I'll share it again just in case. So Aja is unborn. It could refer to Lord Brahma and could refer to Lord Vishnu. So here it's considered to refer to Lord Vishnu. And Mila is actually very close to the way that we use the word Mila, which means to meet, to encounter, to connect with. So literally, Ajamel means one who meets Lord Vishnu, who encounters Lord Vishnu, encounters the name of Lord Vishnu. Generally, Ajamel is translated to as servant of Lord Vishnu. Okay, let's move on to the verse 34. क्व चाहं कृतवः पापो ब्रह्मज्ञो निरपकृपः क्व चानारायणेत्येतद् भगवान् नाम मङ्गलम्. Ajamel continued, I am a shameless cheater who has killed his Brahmanical culture. Indeed, I am sin personified. Where am I in comparison to the all auspicious chanting of the Lord, of the holy name of Lord Narayan? Okay. So we see that Ajumel's realizations are deepening. So from the apparent, it's now going to the more subtle. So initially he was saying, so nice that the Vishnu Dutas came, right? Because he witnessed it with his eyes. But now he's going a little bit deeper. Why did the Vishnu Dutas come? Even though I was all that he's saying, sin personified and Prashalapati, etc. So he's saying that I must have done some devotional service. And because of that, I was able to chant the holy name of the Lord. Right? So he's now making this connection between chanting the holy name of the Lord and the appearance of the Vishnudutas. And so that chain of events that I had described, he's slowly unfolding it, not in a very sequential order, but he's slowly unfolding it. The Vishnudutas came and rescued me. Agyat Sukriti, because of Agyat Sukriti, I got their association. But really speaking, I got their association because I chanted the name of the Lord. Right. So this is the glorification. He says, where am I in comparison with the all auspicious chanting of Lord Narayan? And so this mood of humility appears naturally in devotees. Again, when Chitraketu is speaking to Narad and Angira, he compares himself to a village animal. And so even if we were opulently situated, we should think of where we could have been and where we are. That gives us the opportunity to develop humility. Once somebody asked Radhanath Maharaj, how can I stay humble? And Maharaj replied, first become humble. So Prabhupada in the purport, he writes that those engaged in broadcasting the holy name of Narayan, Krishna, so the Krishna conscious movement should always consider that what our position was before we came and what it is now. And so Prabhupada, this was something that Prabhupada often got others to focus on. Like when somebody asked Prabhupada that if you're a Swami, can you do miracles? And he pointed to his disciples and he said, these are my miracles. I have turned hippies to happies. Okay, verse 25. Soam tatha yateshyame yatha chetendriyanila yatha na bhuya atmana andatam masi majjaye. I'm such a sinful person, but since I have now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life, and senses and always engage in devotional service so that I may not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life. Right? So this is the determination part of Ajamil. So he makes two determinations in this verse. He says, Yata Chitta Indriya Nilaha, that I will completely control my mind, life, and senses. So somebody might say, it's very difficult for you to do that. For all your life, you have been a slave to your senses. So he says, not really. He says, Yatishyami. So Yatishyami means, literally it means I will endeavor. Prabhupada contextually adds devotional service because that's what he means. So he says, not really. I will endeavor to engage in devotional service, and by that, my Yatachitta Indriyanila. By that, I can control my mind and senses. And behind any determination, there has to be a clear goal in mind. So what is Ajmal's goal? He says that I will not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life. So the goal is actually what pulls a person. The determination and means to an end. Of course, bhakti is not a means to an end. Bhakti is an end in itself. But the goal that Ajamel has is that I should get out of this material life. So with that clear goal in mind, he is now making two determinations. That I will control my mind, life, and senses and always endeavor to engage in determined in devotional service. So we see that Ajmel's determination, it follows the resolve of a mature devotee. So when a devotee is mature, then when he makes two determinations, that I will disengage from the material conception and I will engage in the spiritual conception. And that's what Ajmal is saying. He's saying, I will always control my mind, life, and senses, which is essentially saying that I will not allow them to pursue material desires. And then second, he says, I will engage in devotional service. Right? So both go in hand. And unless someone has this determination, both these determinations, with a clear goal in mind, he will definitely continue to commit sins. Right? So Ajmal is presenting himself as an example of how can one redeem oneself. And so this should be the dominant mood of all practicing devotees, that one should be driven out of fear of the material world. And one should be pulled by the happiness of the spiritual world. Prabhupada says that every one of us should have this determination. We have been elevated to an exalted position by the mercy of Krishna and spiritual master. And if you remember that this is a great opportunity and pray to Krishna, we will not fall again. Our lives will be successful. Okay. Verse 36, 37. Vimucyatam imam bandham avidya kama karmajam sarvabhuta suhushchanto maitra karunatmavan mochate grastam atmanam yoshenmayatmamayaya vikridito yayevaham krida mriga ivadmaha. Because of identifying oneself with the body, one is subjected to desires for self-gratification. And thus one engages in many different types of pious and impious action. This is what constitutes material bondage. Now I shall disengage myself from my material bondage, which was created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead's illusory energy in the form of a woman. Being a most fallen soul, I was victimized by the illusory energy and have become like a dancing dog led by a woman's hand. Now I shall give up all lusty desires and free myself from this illusion. I shall become a merciful, well-wishing friend to all living entities and always absorb myself in Krishna consciousness. So this verse, these two verses, are essentially an expansion of verse 35. Like earlier part, he gives a concise description of what constitutes material bondage. So firstly, he says, identifying oneself with the body. What does that result in? One becomes subject to desires of sense gratification. That results in developing lusty desires. Because of that, one becomes victimized by the illusory energy of the Lord. And here he says in the form of a woman. And then finally, loses all discrimination. So it becomes a dancing dog led around by a woman's heart. Right? Now, Ajamel is not just in the repentance program. That would be a mode of ignorance. Like a person who simply repents and does nothing about it, that person is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. But he's in the repentance and remediation program. Right? So right after that, he talks about his determination. He says that I will free myself from this illusion. And so having correctly identified the cause of his illusion, he says, I will free myself from this illusion. What is the illusion? Identifying oneself with the body. And what will this result in? Give up all lusty desires. Right? So you see that how he's counteracting. So in the material bondage, because of identifying with the body, one develops material lusty desires, he is saying that by giving up this illusion, I will also give up all lusty desires. Then the fourth was that I become victimized by the Lord's illusory energy. And here he says that I will disentangle myself from my material bondage and become a merciful well-wisher friend to all living entities, and finally always absorb myself in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says that this should be the standard of determination for all Krishna conscious person. A Krishna conscious person should free himself from the clutches of Maya, and he should also be compassionate to all others suffering in those clutches. Because Ajamel was the opposite of compassionate. He would steal and he would kill other people. He was using all kinds of ways to exploit other living entities. But here, he's saying that I will become the well-wishing friend to all living entities. And so Prabhupada says that the real way to become a well-wishing friend is to also help them make progress. Prabhupada says this is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. Verse 38. Mamamiti dehadau hitva mithaya hitva mithyartha dhirmatim tasya mano bhagvati shuddham tad kirtanadibihi. Simply because I chanted the holy name of the Lord in the association of devotees, my heart is now becoming purified. Therefore, I shall not fall victim again to the false lures of material sense gratification. Now I have become fixed in the absolute truth. Henceforth, I shall not identify myself with the body. I shall give up the false conceptions of I and mine and fix my mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Right? So we see further resolutions by Ajamel. And he says, I will give up the mamaham, the false conceptions of I and mine. I shall not fall victim to the false lures of material sense gratification. I shall not identify myself with the body. I shall fix my mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. And why does he think that he can make this resolution and stay with them? So he says that simply because I chanted the holy name of the Lord in the association of devotees. So the devotees he's talking about here is the Vishnu Dutas. So even though he chanted Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas came after that, but he's considering the fact that he chanted in their association because they heard him chanting and came. So they were with him while he was chanting. So in these situations, repetition is an ornament. And so we see that he's repeating, last three verses, he's repeating the same concepts over and over again. That I will detach myself materially, I will attach myself spiritually, and various symptoms of material attachment, various symptoms of spiritual attachment. But this repetition is an ornament because it shows the resolve of Ajamel. It shows his awareness, his wonderment, his happiness. So because there are so many emotions that are churning in him, he's repeatedly expressing his resolutions in different way, repeatedly glorifying the Lord, the Lord's devotees, and the Lord's holy name. Verse 39. इति जात सुनिर्वेदा क्षणसंज्ञेन साधुषु गंगाद्वारम् उपयेया मुक्तस्वानुबन्धनः. Because of a moment's association with the devotees, the Vishnu Dutas, Ajamel detached himself from the material conception of life with determination. Thus, freed from all material attraction, he immediately started for Haridwar. So this is Sukdev Goswami now summarizing the situation of Ajmer. Right? So he said, Sukdev Goswami says, Jata Sunir Veda. So Jata Sunir Veda is one who has become completely detached from the material conception of life. Then Mukta Sarvanu Bandhana. Because of the detachment, the person has now become freed from all kinds of material bondage. And Kshana Sangena Sadhusu. The reason is Kshana Sangena, a momentary association with the devotees of the Lord. So Sadhushu here refers to the Vishnadutas. So what did what did Ajamel do? So acting upon his determination, he heads out to Haridwar. So again, this point is made that um, it should one's word should result in actions. Like once Prabhupada was traveling in a train, and some Indian gentlemen came, and as is traditional in India, they touched his feet and they said that, please give us your blessing, Swamiji. And Prabhupada said, I bless you that you give up all your material attachment and you become servants of Krishna. And they became very startled and they said, no, no, we are okay. Thank you. And they went away. And then Prabhupada was laughing and he said that, look at them, that just speaking words, no action behind it. So it's generally been experienced when people speak very, very, very bombastic words, then they're just vachanam. They're just empty words. In the purport, Prabhupada brings our attention to, or he kind of uses this opportunity to instruct the maturing devotees in ISKCON. And so he says that how ISKCON has created centers in Vrindavan and Navadvip, and their devotees who want to live a retired life, they can go and live there. Prabhupada says that whether they are devotees or not, they can still go there with determination and give up the body concept. One is welcome to live in these holy places for the rest of the life in order to achieve the highest success by the simple method of chanting the holy name of our Lord and taking prasad. Thus, one may return home back to Godhead. We do not have a center in Haridwar, but Vrindavan and Sridham Mayapur are better for devotees than any other places. Not sure if now there is a temple in Haridwar. I know Rampur Maharaj did this yatra, and few of his classes were in Haridwar. I'm not sure if there's a temple in Haridwar. And so, quick recap of Ajamel's transformation. Right. So first is regret, which comes in verses 26 to 28. Right. And his regret is for acting sinfully, becoming a servant of his senses, falling down from his position of a qualified Brahman, degrading his family tradition, then not taking care of his parents, giving up his chaste and beautiful wife, having sexual intercourse with a prostitute accustomed to drinking wine, and then begetting children in the womb of a prostitute. Right. So he mentioned these regrets. Then awareness. Awareness is verses 29 and 30, where he talks about his current situation. He says, how I am sinful personified, how I am a shameless cheater who has killed the Brahmanical culture, how I'm merged in the ocean of sinful activities, unclean keeper of a prostitute. So these are his awareness. Then he also displays awareness of his future situation. So he is aware that the Yamdutas were poised to take his soul, throw it into hellish conditions where he would suffer extreme mysteries. And so he has awareness of both his current situation and where this trajectory would lead him. Then gratitude in verses 31 and 32, where he expresses his gratitude to Vishnu Dutas for releasing him from arrest and saving him from being dragged down to the hellish regions. Then we see appreciation in verses 33 and 34. What does he have appreciation for? He has appreciation for bhakti, for his past devotional service that he unknowingly performed that gave him the opportunity to chant Vaikuntapati when he was just ready to die. And then he has appreciation for the all auspicious chanting of the holy name of Lord Narayan. And then from 35 to 39, we see determination. What is the determination? That I will free myself from material illusion. I will give up the conception of I and mine. I will not identify with the body. I will not fall victim to the false lures of material sense gratification. I will give up all lusty desires. I will disentangle from material bondage. I will always be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. I will fix my mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. I will become a merciful, well-wishing friend of all living entities. And I will aspire to live in a holy place in the association of devotees. Okay, the next set of verses will now talk about what happens to Ajamel after he sets out to Haridwar. Verse 40. Satasmin deva sadana asino yogama sthita prathyatendriya gramo yuyoja manatmani. In Haridwar, Ajamel took shelter at a Vishnu temple, where he executed the process of Bhakti Yoga. He controlled his senses and fully applied his mind in the service of the Lord. And so we see that he is doing what he wanted to do. He wanted to materially detach and he wanted to engage in devotional service. So Sukdev Goswami is saying he controlled his mind and senses. And so he was no longer under the material bondage. And then he executed the process of Bhakti Yoga by applying his mind to the service of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada once again gives gives an invitation to us. He says that the devotees who have joined the Krishna conscious movement may live comfortably in our many temples and engage in the devotional service of Lord. Thus, they can control the mind and senses and achieve the highest success of life. This is the process descending from time immemorial. Learning from the life of Ajamel, we should vow with determination to do what is necessary to follow this path. Okay, verse 41. Tato gunebhyo atmanam vyujatma samadhina yuje bhagavad dhamani brahmane anubhavatamani. Ajamel fully engaged in devotional service. Thus, he detached his mind from the process of sense gratification and became fully absorbed in the thinking of the form of the Lord. So Prabhupada talks about how did he become absorbed in thinking of the form of the Lord. And essentially, Prabhupada explains that it means that he became engaged in worshipping the deity at the temple. The Prabhupada says that if one worships the deity in the temple, one's mind will naturally be absorbed in the thought of the Lord and his form. There is no distinction between the form of the Lord and the Lord himself. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is the most easy system of yoga. Yogis try to concentrate their minds upon the form of the super soul, Vishnu, within their heart, but the same objective is easily achieved when one's mind is absorbed in deity worship. In every temple, there is a transcendental form of the Lord, and one may easily think of this form. By seeing the Lord during Arati, by offering Bhoga, by constantly thinking of the form of the Lord, one becomes a first-class yogi. Prabhupada quote 647. Yogi nam api sarvesham madhyatenam taratmana shraddhavam bhajate yoma samaya yukta tamomata. The one who, the greatest yogi is one who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service. Verse 42. Yaharya uparta dhistasmin adrakshe purushan puraha uplabhyo palabdhan pra vabande shirasadhuja. When his intelligence and mind were fixed upon the form of the Lord, the Brahman Ajmal once again saw before him four celestial persons. He could understand that they were those he had seen previously, and thus he offered them his obeisances by bowing, by bowing down before them. Earlier, we see that the Vishnu Dutas had rescued Ajamel from being taken to hell and given him a second chance. Now that Ajamel had successfully availed of this second chance, the same Vishnu Dutas came back to take him back to the spiritual world. Verse 43. Hitva kalevaram tirthe gangayam darshanadanu sadhya swarupam jagre bhagavat pashvavartinam. Upon seeing the Vishnu Dutas, Ajamel gave up his material body at Haridwar on the bank of the Ganges. He regained his original spiritual body, which was a body appropriate for an associate of the Lord. So this is the consequence of executing devotional service. So he gets a spiritual body appropriate to associate with the Lord. Right? And Sukadeva Goswami says, Bhagavad Pashva Vartiman. So Bhagavad Pashva Vartiman means that he regained his body. So it talking about the point that each one of us had originally a pure spiritual body that gets covered with the material body. And when the devotional service is perfected, then Bhagavad Parshva Vartina. And one regains that spiritual body. Prabhupada says the result of perfection in Krishna consciousness is that after giving up one's material body, one is immediately transferred to the spiritual world in one's original spiritual body to become an associate. Some devotees go to Vaikuntha Lok, other goes to Golok Vrindavan to become associates of Krishna. So the understanding is that because Ajamel was chanting Narayan, he went to Vaikuntha Lok. Verse 44. Sakam vihaya savipro mahapurusha kinkare vaiman vimanam maruhya yayayu yatra shrihapati. Accompanied by the auto carriers of Lord Vishnu, Ajamel boarded an airplane made of gold. Passing through the airways, he went directly to the abode of Lord Vishnu, the husband of the goddess of fortune. So Lord Vishnu is called Shrihapati. So one of the names of Lakshmi Devi is Shri, and Shripati is her husband. Verse 45. एवं स विपलावेता सर्वधर्मा धास्पति पतितो ग्रहया कर्मणा निपात्यमानो निरये हतव्रता सद्यो विमुक्त भगवान नाम ग्रहणन्. Ajamel was a Brahman who, because of bad association, had given up all Brahmanical culture and religious principles. Becoming most fallen, he stole, drank, and performed other abominable acts, even kept a prostitute. Thus, he was destined to be carried away to hell by the order carriers of Yamraj. But he was immediately rescued simply by a glimpse of the chanting of the holy name, Narayan. So, this verse is a summary of the Ajamel pastime. So the first part of the verse talks about the fall down of Ajamil. That because of bad association, giving up the Brahminical culture, he stole, drank, performed other sinful activities, kept a prostitute, and he was all set on the path to be carried away to hell by the Yamadutas. And the second part of the verse talks about the rescue of Ajamil. That by a glimpse of the chanting of the holy name of Narayan, one the way of saying Navavas, he was immediately rescued. So this is a concise summary of the. Okay, verse 46. नातः परं करं कर्म निबंध कृतं कृणत्तनं मुमुक्षतां तीर्था पादानुकीर्तना न यत् पुनः कर्मसु सजते मनो रजस्तभोभ्यां कलिलं ततो निथा. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the holy, glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods, such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, and meditation in mystic yoga. Because even after following such methods, one takes to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. So the conclusion is the supremacy of the process of chanting and glorifying the Nam, Roop, Gun, Leela of the Lord. And Sukdev Goswami contrasts this with all the other process, Karm Kand, Gyan, and Astang. And he says that only Bhakti can deliver because the other processes will not be able to control the conditioned mind. So Prabhupada says that this is the perfect conclusion. That if one actually desires to get out of the material world, he must take to devotional service that begins with Shravana Kirtana Vishnu, the chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. The Krishna consciousness movement has actually proved this. In the Western countries, many young boys who were addicted to drugs and who had many other bad habits which they could not give up abandoned all these propensities and very seriously engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord as soon as they joined the Krishna consciousness movement. In other words, this process is the perfect method of atonement for action performed in Raja and Tama, passion and ignorance. Verse 47, 48. य एतं परमं भूयाम् इतिहासमगापम् शून्याक्षरधया युक्तो यश्च भक्त्यानुकीर्तयेत् नवाय स नरकं यति या नवाय स नरकं याति नेक्षितो यमकिङ्करः यद्यपि अमङ्गलो मर्त्यो विष्णुलोकमहीयते. Because this very confidential historical narration has the potency to vanquish all sinful reactions. One who hears and describes it with faith and devotion is no longer doomed to hellish life, regardless of his having a material body and regardless of how sinful he may have been. Indeed, the Yamadutas who carry out the orders of Yamraj do not approach him even to see him. After giving up his body, he returns home back to Godhead, where he is very respectfully received and worshipped. So, this is the falasuti of the pastime, that one is no longer doomed to a hellish life, but one is elevated to the spiritual planets. Verse 49. Mriyamano hare nama granan putra pacharitam ajamelapya gadama kimmuta sadaya ganan. While suffering at the time of death, Ajmal chanted the holy name of the Lord, and although the chanting was directed towards his son, he nevertheless returned home back to Godhead. Therefore, if one faithfully and inoffensively chants the holy name of the Lord, where is the doubt that he will return to Godhead? So, this is a very important verse so that one does not misinterpret the pastime. So, Ajmal pastime is not presented there in the Bhagavatam so that one is encouraged to perform sinful activities and then take the shelter of the holy name. It is actually an injunction to be faithful and inoffensive in chanting of the holy name. So, in the last line, Sukadeva Goswami says Kimuta. So, Kimuta Nyaya is presenting something and then saying that if this is true, what to speak about that? And you can say that if somebody with $1,000 can live a comfortable life, what to speak of one who has $1,000,000, right? So essentially, Ajmal pastime is a Kimuta pastime. So there are 4 conditions that Ajmal displayed. So he chanted at the time of death. Mriyamano Hare Namagranan. What about those who chant throughout their lives? Then he chanted for his son, Putro Pacharitam. But what about those who call the Lord? Then third is that he chanted without faith. What if one chants with faith? And the fourth is he was sinful. What if one is sinless? Right? So essentially, what is the pastime telling us about? That always chant the name of the Lord first. Second is with proper conception of the position of the Lord. Third is Shraddhaya, with faith. And fourth is while avoiding sinful lives. So the Kimuta Nyaya says that when Ajmal, who was not able to achieve any of these 4 conditions, was able to attain perfection by chanting, what if one is chanting with these 4 misconceptions rectified? That they are constantly chanting the name of the Lord, not just at the time of death. That they're chanting the name of the Lord, understanding that Abhinvam Nama Namita. There's no difference between the name and the named. They're chanting with faith that the holy name contains the full potency of the Lord. And materially, they're avoiding all sinful lives. So Prabhupada says in conclusion, one who chants the holy name of the Lord constantly is guaranteed to return back home to Godhead without a doubt. So this is Srila Prabhupada's assurances. So this gets us to the end of the 2nd chapter. And I can pause over here and see if there's any discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very beautiful narration, Prabhuji. Especially the summary is very useful to summarize like pretty much last 2-3 classes, I would feel. The essence is the Kimutanyaya and his Ajamila's realization, all those things are wonderful. Uh, so it gives a lot of clarity and hope and faith on the holy name. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I was just thinking a, s- a subsidiary question, maybe I would say it is not question on the main purpose that is on holy name, because that part is clear to me. Uh, the question is like Ajamil has a dramatic lifestyle. Initially, he is so good, and at one point, he became so bad, and then finally, he rectified himself and gone back to Godhead by chanting the holy name. Uh, so, uh, so in the course of his life, and probably in the lives before, he would have done harm. Just like in this life, it is very evident he harmed his parents and his faithful wife, and at some point, initially, although he was taken care, and then later, he protected or helped, the prostitute and the prostitute's children by taking up life. So in a way, he encountered with lot of karmic connections. In any way, he going back to Godhead will benefit him. That is one side of question. And another side of question is, there are times like, like the prostitute scenario, she made Ajamil fall down. What if somebody made Ajamil, like, a Vaishnav fall down? Of course, end of the day, it is his own choice. But still, what would be the consequences of those people? Like Karmi's interactions with Vaishnavas, maybe to put it in a nutshell, like, is there any way they would be benefiting in their regular karmic interactions, or prior he becoming Vaishnava? So it's kind of summary of his this life and the previous lives, how we have to see in what way Vaishnava benefits. Because if we see, if Vaishnava leaves his family and gone, of course Ajamila's case is different. Anyway, he would have died. He didn't take care of his child. So if a Vaishnava didn't take care of his child for the purpose of Krishna, in what way Krishna will help that the child is not deprived of something? Uh, so a few, maybe if you can help me in giving a little holistic purpose or holistic understanding to me.
Well, honestly speaking, I have no idea what you're talking about because you're talking about so many things at the same time. So you're talking about Vaishnav children. If the
Uh,
Vaishnav goes on sannyas, what happens to the children of the Vaishnav?
maybe
And
you
then
generally,
karmic reaction of devotees and non-devotees. I'm completely confused. Maybe ask one question at a time.
okay, Prabhuji. So uh, he has some, before he became a Vaishnava, he has so many karmic connections with so many people. And usually, if he is still conditioned, he would be going through all that reactions, actions, reactions, and all those things. Now he cut all those things and gone back to Godhead. So, in any way, those people who were interacting with him will get some benefit,
Because
because at one point either they are benefited by him, or they were caused harm by him. He killed so many people, innocent people. So, he,
why would he get benefit? Why would they get benefit? Because they were killed by Ajamil?
yeah, to put it like, he killed them. Usually, if he is not a Vaishnav, he would be facing the reaction back from them.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they were in a way deprived of that opportunity to, you know, uh, give it back. I
Who's
don't.
they?
Those people who are killed by him. Uh,
It's not necessary, right? That the people who were killed by you will come and kill you.
mm,
Somebody else can kill you, right? Karma works in multiple ways.
mm,
So it's not necessarily the people that you wrong will come and wrong you, but
okay.
it's what carries with you are the karmic reactions. If you did a sin, then the reaction for the sin comes. Maybe those people will come, maybe somebody else will come. They'll be an agent of giving you back the reactions. So if Ajmail went back to Godhead, and the people who were killed, I think your question is now they're supposed to get an opportunity to kill Ajmail, but Ajmail has gone back to Godhead, so who should they kill? But it's not really like that. It's it's a complex mesh of karma. So they got killed because of their karmic reactions, and what happens to them after that is also a result of how they live their life. So it's difficult to just take one event and then try and establish a philosophy based on that.
Hmm. Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah, I think, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. If not, then we can start with the next chapter, the third chapter, which is uh, uh, the title of the chapter is Yamraj instructs his messengers. It's 35 verses and an interesting conversation between the Yamadutas and Yamraj. So 631, Shri Raj Vacha Nishamya Dev Svabhatopavarnitam Pratyakim Tanapi Dharmarajah Evam Hatagya Vihatan Murarer Naideshkeryasya Vase Janoyam. King Parikshit said, O my lord, O Sukadev Goswami, Yamraj is the controller of all living entities in terms of their religious and irreligious activities. But his order had been foiled. When his servants, the Yamadutas, informed him of their defeat by the Vishnudutas, who had stopped them from arresting Ajamel, what did he reply? So in 6:21, it's mentioned that the Yamadutas reported the incident to their master, Yamraj. And this chapter essentially is the response of Yamraj and also glorification of Yamraj. So we see that Yamraj is being disrespected. One is implicitly by the Vishnu Dutas, because any disrespect against the servant is a reflection of the master. The servants were carrying out the order of the master, and the Vishnu Dutas essentially thwarted them, stopped them. So it's a reflection on Yamraj. They were disrespected by the Vishnu Dutas. And then we'll see in the conversation that even the Yamdutas, they also speak very insultingly to Yamraj. But the greatness of Yamraj is that he does not become angry. But we see that he has two prominent emotions. He has happiness about this contact with the holy name, even though it is indirect. But he's happy about that, and he's repenting that he has not taught his servants about the astonishing powers of bhakti. So the third chapter essentially confirms the statements of the Vishnu Dutas through the mouth of Yamraj. So we'll see that what Yamraj says is very similar to what the Vishnu Dutas spoke. So Prabhupada in the purport writes that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although the statements of the Yamadutas were fully upheld by Vedic principles, the statements of the Vishnu Dutas were triumphant. This was confirmed by Yamraj himself. Verse 2, यमस्य देवस्य न दण्डभङ्गा हुताशनर्षे श्रुतपूर्वासित् एतान् मुने पृच्छति लोकसंशयम् न हि त्वदन्या इति मे विनिश्चितम्. O great sage, never before has it been heard anywhere that an order from Yamraj has been baffled. Therefore, I think that people will have doubts about this and that no one but you can eradicate. Since this is my firm conviction, kindly explain the reasons of these events. So, even though the Yamadutas are experiencing a gamut of emotion, they're very angry, they are feeling humiliated, they have a lot of resentment towards Yamraj that he could not protect them. But they are also establishing a proper cadence, saying that we are not just asking you for the sake of asking you, but we are actually trying to establish a order in the universe. So they say, never before has your order been baffled. Right? Now, again, this is not strictly true. So does anybody know of any examples where the orders of Yamraj has been reversed or baffled, as Prabhupada says in this verse?
Markandeya was protected by Lord Shiva.
Markandeya Rishi, so when he was, I believe he was 7 years old at the time, so he was predicted to have a short life. And his parents then said, you worship Lord Shiva. And actually, when his seventh birthday came, assume it was seventh, I'm not sure, it was 5 or 7, but assuming it was 7, when the seventh birthday came, they actually left him. They couldn't see him die. They left him and they said, you just worship Lord Shiva. And then Markandeya, with full faith, was sitting and worshipping the Shivalinga. And then Yamraj, out of deference for Markandeya's position, personally came to take the soul of Markandeya. And as he was pulling out the soul, Markandeya was holding on to the Shivalinga. And then Lord Shiva actually comes from the Shivalinga and he actually kicks Yamraj in anger, saying that don't touch my devotees. And then there is, of course, the very famous example of Savitri, who forced Yamraj to reverse his order for her husband Satyavan. But these are exceptions. So when the Yamadutas are saying that your order has never been baffled, it means that 99.99999% of the time, your orders have never been baffled. Verse 3. Sri Sukhuvacha Bhagavad Purashaya Rajan Yama Pratihato Dyamaha Patim Vigyapayamasu Yamam Samyamani Patim. Sri Sukadev Goswami replied, my dear king, when the order carriers of Yamraj were baffled and defeated by the order carriers of Vishnu, they approached their master, the controller of Samyanipuri and master of sinful persons, to tell him of this incident. So the previous verse is spoken by Parishit Maharaj. And Sukadev Goswami is now answering the question that whatever your doubt is was also the doubt of the Yamadutas. And so they approached Samyamani Puri. So Samyamani Puri is in the region of the Patal Loka, somewhere in where the hellish planets are there, where Yamraj is presiding over the punishment of those who die. And so there are two personalities that preside over the punishment. When a person dies, then the punishment in the hellish planets is presided by Yamraj. And when the person takes birth again, then the residual effect of the karma remains, and that punishment is presided over by Shani Dev, who is actually the younger brother of Yamraj. So Yamraj presides over the punishment of the dead, and Shani Dev presides over the punishment of the living. So many times very rarely you see people actually worshiping Yamraj because they don't have that conception. And Yamraj is really, he's kind of really just following rules, which is same by Shani Dev also, but there is more worship of Shani Dev than Yamraj. Shani Dev is the presiding deity for Saturday. And at least in Delhi, I know on Saturdays, people come to your house and then they have this thingy that they carry, um, which is an iron form of Shani Dev with, I think it is mustard oil, and ask for donation. And I know there is some pretty elaborate pastime that is linked to both the iron form of the deity and the mustard oil. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Something to do with Lord Hanuman, etc., etc. But there are more people who are looking for immediate relief. So they're more trying to appease Shani Dev. Okay, verse 4. Yamaduta uchuhu kati santi yashastaro jivalokasya vai prabhu त्रैविध्यं कुर्वतः कर्म फलाभिवयक्ति हेतवः. The Yamduta said, our dear Lord, how many controllers or rulers are there in this material world? How many causes are responsible for manifesting the various results of activities performed under the three modes of material nature? Satagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. So the Yamadutas, they speak 7 verses from verse 4 to verse 10, which you will see is a blend of inquiry and insult. Right? So Prabhupada in the purport writes that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Yamadutas, the order carrier Yamraj, were so disappointed that they asked their master almost in great anger whether there are many masters other than him. Furthermore, because the Yamadutas had been defeated and their master could not protect them, they were inclined to say that there was no need to serve such a master. If a servant cannot carry out the orders of his master without being defeated, what is the use of serving such a powerless master? So that is the contract between the servant and the master. That the servant follows the instructions of the master and the master protects the servant in executing the instructions. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he talks about the inner feeling of the Yamadutas, that where were you when we were being defeated by the Vishnudutas? And what is the point in us having you as a master when there is somebody else who is actually more powerful than you? So Chakravarti, he paraphrases what the Yamaduta says. He says that the Yamadutas are saying that though we defeated all others in the world, we have suffered from the 4 people with 4 persons with 4 hands. After punishing them, we will bring Ajamel to hell. If we cannot do so, we are servants of a firefly. After this, we cannot serve. So firefly is Jugnu, right? Those kind that light up, but the Chakravarti Padi using an analogy of the firefly is that even though they light up, they have no quality of the fire. They don't have any heat in them. So it's fire in name only. And so what the Yamadutas want to do is to take revenge. They want to go to wherever the Vishnu Dutas have gone, and they want to capture them and bring them back. Right? And after punishing the Vishnu Dutas, they will then go to Ajamel and get him also back and punish him in hell. And they said, if we cannot do that, we are servants of a firefly who is not worthy of being served. So we see that Yamraj is being openly insulted by his own servants, and previously he was also insulted by the Vishnudutas. Since the Yamadutas were highly agitated, Yamraj does not respond to their being disrespectful to him. So this is the sign of a mature leader. The leaders, they try and keep their ego aside as much as possible and work from the perspective of the desired outcome. Like so Yamraj is that how can I use this pastime for everybody's benefit? And that's what he works towards. He doesn't get sidetracked by how disrespectful the Yamadutas are and starts cursing them or chastising them. And that would be a sign of immaturity. And that's why Yamraj is a Mahajan. That he doesn't even respond to all this insult, but he simply uses this pastime to steer the Yamadutas towards what he would like to tell them about the glories of the holy name. Verse 5. Yadi Bhavako loke shastaro dandadharnaha kasya shatam nava kasya mrityuschamratam evacha. If in this universe there are many rulers and justices who disagree about punishment and reward, their contradictory actions will neutralize each other and no one will be punished or rewarded. Otherwise, if their contradictory acts fail to neutralize each other, everyone will have to be both punished and rewarded. So previously, Yamadutas had said that there can't be many masters. There has to be only one. Here they are justifying why is the need for one master. So they are saying that if there are many controllers, if there are many masters, then they will have a difference in opinion. So for a particular event, one may say this requires punishment, the other may say this requires a reward. So they are saying two things might happen, that the punishment and the reward might cancel one another, or the person may be given both punishment and reward. So this will confuse those who either follow the path of dharma or teach the path of dharma. Because what will you teach? If every activity has several possible results, then what will you instruct a person? That if dharma says that you should not lie, but actually lying under one situation, somebody gets rewarded, somebody gets punished, then what will the teachers of dharma teach? So essentially, what the Yamadutas are saying, that dharma will be destroyed. So the quality of the sobriety of Yamaraj is the quality of great people, that they're able to convert apparent defeat into victory because of their meditation on the Lord. So when Lord Shiva was bewildered by Mohini Murti, then apparently he was being shamed. Because if you remember the past time, then Mohini Murti, she was openly running, and she purposefully she was running at the places where the sages were sitting and meditating and worshipping Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was shamelessly running after this woman who was without clothes and apparently full of lust. And then after that, what does Lord Shiva say? He says, thank you. Why? Because he understood that through this pastime, he had. So when this pastime happened, Parvati Devi was standing right next to Lord Shiva. And he ignored her and ran after Mohini Devi. So the acharyas say that Lord Shiva, he left the shelter of the external illusory energy of the Lord and ran to take shelter of his internal illusory energy. Now, Mahamaya and Yogamaya, they're both Maya. Maya means that they bewilder. Mahamaya bewilders one away from the Lord, and Yogamaya bewilders one to Lord. So when Lord Shiva was running after Mohini, he was running after Krishna. So that is why he was very pleased. That thank you, my Lord, that you have given me this opportunity to move away from your external illusory energy to take shelter of your internal potency. Similarly, we see the example of Parishit Maharaj, that when he was cursed, he turned the situation into his greatest triumph. Like he could have been ashamed, he could have been bewildered, angry, so many things. But he looked at the situation and he saw that what is the best thing that I can get out of it. And that resulted in the Bhagavatam getting spoken. Similarly, when Chitraketu was cursed by Parvati Devi, he he gets off his Viman, he goes to her and he gives obeisances to her and very graciously accepts the curse. And the result is the birth of Chitraketu as Vritasur and then the liberation of Vritasur. And so he was cursed for something that he was probably not even guilty of, because he does say that, or he does not say, but he indicates, but the acharyas say that he had a Sakhyaras with Lord Shiva, which was one of joking and teasing. And he was firmly established in the conception of Parvati being his mother. So there was no question of him to make any fun of them in a sexual way. He was making fun because Parvati Devi was sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva. So there's no question of him doing it. So actually, even Parvati Devi gets embarrassed after cursing Chitraketu. And the Acharya says that Chitraketu was already powerful enough to reverse the curse. But the quality of a great person is that they take any and every situation and use it for their ultimate benefit. So Bharat Maharaj, such an advanced devotee, took birth as a deer and then as Jet Bharat. But ultimately, he acquired perfection. So Prabhupada says in the purport that actually the position of Yamraj was very awkward in the case of Ajamel, because the Yamadutas were right in attempting to arrest Ajamel, but the Vishnudutas had baffled them. Although Yamraj under these circumstances was accused by both the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas, he is perfect in administering justice because he is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he will explain what his real position is and how everyone is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so we'll do one more verse and then for that end for the day, verse 6. Kintu shastra bahutva bahunamiha karminam shastram upacharo hi yatha mandalavartinam. The Yamadutas continued. Since there are many different karmis or workers, there may be different judges or rulers to give them justice. But just as one central emperor controls different departmental rulers, there must be one supreme controller to guide all the judges. So the Yamdutas are kind of modifying the statement they made. So initially they said there has to be only one person who is deciding. Now they're saying it's okay if there are many people, but they should all be complying with one person giving them the process to judge. That way, they will treat everyone in the same way. So, ideally speaking, the court system is, even though there are so many judges, but they all abide by the rule book, the legal rule book. And that's why, again, ideally, the person, he is judged the same regardless of which judge he comes in front of. So the Yamdutas are making this point that uh, uh, maybe there are many people, maybe the Vishnu Dutas are some people who are also responsible for executing punishment or reward, but ultimately they should abide by what you tell them. They're telling Yamraj. You have to be that one central power that is controlling the different departmental rulers. And Prabhupada says in the purport, they wanted to know who the central judge is. The Yamdutas were certain that Ajmel was a most sinful man. But although Yamraj wanted to punish him, the Vishnuduta excused him. This was a puzzling situation that the Yamdutas wanted Yamraj to clarify. Right? So we also see that when we're reading commentaries on the verses, then different acharyas may write the commentaries differently. Not may, they will. Almost always they will write the commentaries differently. But that is variety, it's not contradiction. Right? Variety is designed to give us deeper appreciation. So if you look at the commentary difference between Baldev Vibhushan and Vishwanath Chakrabarti, uh, Baldev Vibhushan, he tends to be very strongly focused on the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutras. He refers to a lot of them in explaining the verses. And Vishwanath Chakrabarti is Rasikacharya. He's very much into emotion and he gives the commentary a little bit differently. So the commentaries will differ, but they will never differ on the principle. So it's not that Vishwanath Chakrabarti will say that this verse means that Krishna is the personality of Godhead, and Baldev Vibhushan will say that this verse means that the Jiva is the personality of Godhead. Right? So they will never vary in the principle. Okay, so I will stop over here. We are at time, but if somebody has any quick questions, we can take maybe one question. Okay, if not, then we will end over here. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva chah patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय शिला प्रभुपाद की जय थाई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरे कृष्णा थैंक यू सो मच